Welcome to the Everyday Apostle, where ordinary lives meet extraordinary faith. Join our host, Kendall Peterson, as we explore how everyday men and women bring the gospel to life wherever they live, work, and play. Let's dive into it right now.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Everyday Apostle podcast. I'm your host, Kendall Peterson. We've had a couple of week break. Obviously, you can tell by the way I'm entering into this that I'm out of practice. But it is an honor to be able to bring these stories of inspiration and faith to you guys. Had really great feedback from everybody from the first episode we had. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one. A big thank you to everybody for the prayers, the messages, the support, and especially the sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Ryan Young, founder of Camp Veritas, which runs 5 teen summer camps for middle and high schoolers, 2 in New York, 1 in Ireland, which is going on this week, 1 in Maryland, and 1 in Florida. It is a wonderful way to get your kids engaged in their faith, get engaged with other teens, and to bring faith and the socialization together. It's really an amazing program. I highly encourage you to look that up. campveritas.org is how you can find them. I don't have any sponsors for the next couple of episodes, so if you are feeling it on your heart that you may want to support either through donation or a true sponsorship where I can give a shout out to your business or whatever organization you have, feel free to check us out, everydayapostle.com. And you can sign up there, you can make donations, or you can actually inquire about sponsorships. Would love to have that. Today, I have an incredible guest, somebody that I just met very recently. I met on a mission trip. But somebody that has really impacted my heart. I was really impressed with this young man and the entire family. So today we have this inspiring young man with us who truly embodies the spirit of living in the faith in their everyday life. Please join me in welcoming Ignasio D Toro. Ignacio is a rising junior at Belen Jesuit Preparatory School in Miami, Florida, where he not only excels academically, but also showcases his talents both on the wrestling team and as part of the broadcast journalism team at the school. When he's not at school, Ignacio stays active by hitting the gym. Should have seen this guy work last week. It was pretty impressive. And he exercises quite frequently, talks about exercise routines and fitness and how to eat. He's really an incredible young man. He also has a creative side. He plays the drums and he indulges in his passion for writing. Ignacio's dedication to his pursuits and his commitment to living a balanced, fit, and faith-filled life make him a fantastic role model for young people everywhere. I am thrilled to have him share his journey and his insights with us today. Please welcome Ignacio.
Hi, how are you, Kendall?
Hi, Ignacio. Great to see you again. Thank you for joining me on the Everyday Apostle podcast. Everybody who joins me on the podcast gets a gift. So I'd like to give this gift to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You can open it now. You don't have to open it now. It's totally up to you.
I think I'll open it later.
Just a little something to show my appreciation for you being here. So let's dive right into it. In the intro, you have a passion for writing. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. What do you like to write? What style? What genre? How do you work that into your life?
Well, I mean, since I was a little kid, I've always, loved reading, and I've been naturally really good at writing. In second grade, I was, writing multiple page stories, and I've just always had a great knack for it. In Belen, I've taken, all the top level writing classes. I took AP language last year, and I definitely excelled in that class. And my friend Michael Vila, he has this initiative at Belen, Animating Others, where he'll make these animated videos for kids to see at hospitals, and I'm one of the writers on his team. So I try to, use my skills for whatever good or whatever usefulness I can make out of it. And personally, I like to write just for myself to journal things or to write routines or schedules. So, it's always definitely been a passion of mine.
Oh, that's amazing. I would love to see some of that work when we get done here. I'd love to see some of that, and I'm sure the viewers and listeners would love to see some of that as well. So we'll have to work that in. So Ignacio, where did you grow up?
So both of my parents are Cuban, but I was raised here in Miami. Uh, for most of my life, I've lived, locally in South Miami here. Um, I attended school at this little elementary school, Little Elementary, and then from there, big difference. I went to Belen Jesuit, which was a private school. It was Christian, so it was definitely a big shift. But I was super blessed with Belen. I got great grades throughout all of middle school, and then in eighth grade, I joined the wrestling team, which was a big change for me because I was always a kind of a short, pudgy kid. I wasn't too athletic, and then I joined the wrestling team, and I got crazy at it. I lost like 30 pounds in my first season. I was wrestling on the varsity team, and I continued that on to my ninth grade year, and then by 10th grade, I took a break from wrestling just to they had me at like some of the lower weight classes, so I wanted to bulk up, and then that's when I got my love for the gym. I started going, 6 days a week, every week for like forever. When I went on this mission trip just last week, that was the longest time I'd spent away from the gym in like over a year. So, I've always loved fitness, and I hope to go back to wrestling next year for sure.
Wow. Well, between the picking and the shoveling and the hauling cement and everything else that we did last week, then
Yeah,
I am sure that you got quite a workout there. So that's great. Like honoring your body, as a temple, and very, very important. Especially we view that in our faith. I'm curious when it comes to faith in your school environment or even in your home environment. What was that like? Is that something that has been there the whole time, or is that something that came later? What was that like?
well, both of my parents, they raised me as a Catholic. So, I was baptized. I got my first sacraments and everything, but it was always kind of like, my parents are Christians, my family's Christian, so I'm a Christian. And I think for the longest time, I didn't really take my faith uh, as a thing personal, but it was more of just a thing that was around me, so I did it. My parents went to church, so I went to church. My parents prayed, so I prayed. But I don't think I really thought about it that much until ninth grade year. A new teacher came to Belen, Brother Hunter, and I was blessed with that teacher. He was, you know, uh, a radical religious man in that, he was obsessed with faith. And he said it on one of the first days. He said, he put it like this: if Catholicism, if God, if Christianity, if it isn't true, if it isn't real, then it doesn't really matter. If you go to church, if you pray, it doesn't really make a difference. But if it is real and if it is true, which the overwhelming evidence says that it is, then it means everything. Every part of your life has to revolve around that. And that stuck with me. I internalized that. And it was like, faith can't be a thing that you just do because everyone around you does it. It has to be a personal connection between you and God. It's not a casual thing. It has to be everything. So I started thinking, you know, I have to take my faith seriously. I have to start asking questions. I have to, being more involved in that. And, he got me asking questions too. He introduced the book of Job to me, which started with the problem of evil. And, for I think the first time in my life, I was really more involved with the faith and how I thought about things. And even for a while, that took me away from it. But, just to really think about your faith seriously, not just as a thing you do because you're told to. That kind of switched around more later on, more ninth grade year, with I had another teacher, Mr. Terzulli, which is a brilliant mind. He's amazing, and he went more into the history of the church and all the ecumenical councils, the boring stuff. But he answered questions which I would ask a lot. But he was a genius mind, and he definitely got me more closer to God, I think, throughout that year.
Okay.
So I feel like, obviously none of us are perfect, but I feel like I'm getting closer and closer, like faith wise.
Well, I think it's a never-ending journey,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's one of those things, but you're on it. So I'm curious, that had a sounds like a profound impact on you
Yeah.
when these two teachers kind of enter your life, and they're sharing maybe a slightly different viewpoint than you'd heard before,
Hmm.
whatever it was that just resonated with you.
Yeah.
Um, so what changed for you versus, let's say, before those two teachers came into your life? You were living life, going to school, doing all of that stuff, typical teen, right? What started to change, or what immediate changes did you see?
Um, you know, there when I was a kid, this is bad, but I at church and stuff, it would be like, I don't want to go to church, or I want to spend my Sunday playing video games, or being dumb, playing around, whatever. And it's like, oh, we have to go to church. I like roll my eyes and then sleep through the homily or sleep through the different parts. Um, and then I think after that, it's like, church isn't really, it's not, it's not something you can take seriously. It's possibly, I think it is the most important part of any week. It's that hour that you sacrifice to God. And, that goes with all like different aspects of church, like, or religion. You can't just pray, to get it out of the way, or go to the church to get out of the way. That you have to be in that. You have to think about it. So it's about that, just taking your faith, seriously, and taking it personally. It's not just a chore to get out of the way.
So that's a fairly, I would say, radical mindset in itself for a teen, right?
Yeah.
Even a teen in a Catholic school,
Hmm.
like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, so what's that like to have that mindset and be in the environment of school, right? Teen, especially in all boys school, right? Teen boys are teen boys.
Yeah.
There's a mindset of what fun looks like, and what activities look like. So you're coming at it with, I would say, a fairly mature way of looking at faith and exploration, right? A mature way trapped in a teen body.
Right.
So what does that look like for you? How are you? Do you find it difficult to live that mindset in that environment, or what's that like for you?
I think it's, extremely difficult. And, ever since I started thinking about faith more seriously, that's when, doubts come up. And, is this religion? Do I have problem with different aspects of the Bible or different teachings? Questions pop up. Why do these bad things happen if God is all good? Or, you know, why doesn't it feels like God doesn't listen to prayers, or, doubts like that. And that'll start to come up. And that only comes up if you take your faith seriously, not just as, another thing. Um, it's, sorry, I lost my train of
No,
thought.
that's
It's,
hardest part of living that way in
yeah,
school, in the school environment.
it's, it's trying to it's like any consistent thing, I think. If it's not about, feeling inspired to, one day you feel inspired to pray a lot, and that's not really, one day I'm like, oh, I got to be more holier, and then I pray 5 rosaries, and then don't really touch any prayer for weeks after that. That's not really gonna get you, holier. It, I mean, I'm gonna this this kind of, you can put this in any aspect of life, but I'm gonna compare it to the gym. If you feel like inspired to go to the gym one day and you do an 8-hour workout, and then you never hit the gym again after that, that 8-hour workout, it's not going to do anything you're not going to build muscle. You're not going to become more endurant. That's not going to help you. And it's kind of the same way with faith. You have to, even if it's in little ways, like if you go to the gym 30 minutes every day, that person's going to surpass that one guy that did an 8-hour workout one day. You have to try to put little things in all aspects of your life. If when I go to the gym with my friends, I try to do a little, gym bro prayer before that. My mom, she does rosaries with her friends all the time. I try to hop in every once in a while when I can, even to write as if, in a prayer format. reflections and things like that. It's about just being consistent with your faith and not feeling more inspired one day than another. And that's, I think, what'll make you grow more as a Catholic. But it is hard. It is extremely hard. And I think most Catholics can resonate with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you, it's hard to live as an everyday apostle,
Right.
right? Wherever you are, whether it's school or work or sometimes even in your family, right? But the more we get to see other people do it, which is why I started this in the first place. I'm curious. It's hard. You're there. What are some of the things that you do in the school environment, either with your friends, with your teachers, or just on your own? What are some of the things that you're doing in school to help ease that tension or make it better or just allow you the strength to dig in and just keep going on that path?
Well, I mean, Belen, it's its own little special bubble in a way because you'll see that with most students. Most students and most of my friends are, Christians and they're practicing Christians. So, I feel comfortable with my friends at least talking about faith and, even with my friends. I go to LA Fitness after school when school's in there and my friend drives me there. And then, we listen to music and stuff. And then right when we park at the gym, we'll always, turn down the music for a second and we'll hit a little like prayer and stuff. So it's kind of that, blend, that environment. It's comfortable to be a Christian and to talk about your faith with your friends. So I think that helps a lot. In a public school, you never see that obviously because, teachers especially aren't allowed to talk about religion and a lot of people have different views and, a lot of agnostics and atheists, but Belen is special because, you'll see that there. And even with teachers too, I feel comfortable going up to my teachers and asking them about a faith related questions. Most teachers, they'll do a prayer before class. So it's a very faith filled environment. I think that helps a lot for sure.
That's great. So you're rising junior, is that correct?
Yeah.
Obviously, as a rising junior, having gone through that 6 times with my kids,
Yeah.
Start thinking about college, right? And it's kind of on the horizon. You've got the SATs and the ACTs and all of that preparatory work. How big of a part does your faith play in thinking about where you go to college?
I mean, I haven't thought too much about college, admittedly. I think I'm kind of floating around business or something.
Right.
I like the idea of owning a commercial gym one day, so I'm kind of leaning towards, health and fitness and business and kind of those things. But I don't know. I haven't really considered being. I know because FIU's been in the top of my list, and I know they have like a, clubs for Catholics or Christians, so that's definitely going to be something I'm part of. But I mean, a lot of my friends that are coming from Belen are also planning to go to FIU or a school locally. So, just to keep up faith with my friends at least, and those like in my circle, I think that's how we continue to keep our faith even beyond a controlled environment like Belen where everyone is, or mostly everyone is, religious and can talk about that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier where you said, Belen's a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
Right. And then at some point you come out of that bubble and
Right.
it's the real world. The real world can sometimes be harsh. You may not notice a difference, right? If you're surrounding yourself with people of like-minded values. So that may ease the transition, but I was just kind of curious how you were thinking about it, but maybe you're not there yet. So, so over and above that, there was one particular moment when we were on that mission trip that really got my attention with you. I was just impressed with your work ethic. You're generally quiet. You were there with your brother, and there was some great banter and back and forth and all of that with him. But we're all sitting around and as Catholics talking about the Catholic faith and all of that. And there was one particular moment where we were talking about transubstantiation and the presence of Christ in reality in the Eucharist. And you asked probably one of the most amazing questions that that I've ever really heard, right? Because what it represented was you truly thinking about your faith, and that was, if that's true, why is it important to us that that is true? And I kind of sat back for a moment and I listened to the answers, and it was, well, it's true because the catechism says so, or it's true because this, and if you don't believe, then this, right? But nobody really answered that question. Um, and I think all I really did was encourage you to just kind of find the answer to that
Yeah.
question. Those questions, like, is that typical for you to ask, to
I mean,
intrigue, ask the intriguing questions, and if so, who do you generally get your answers from?
well, kind of like what I was saying earlier, I think it's, dangerous, maybe even worse than just not being Christian is being a blind Christian, in that you just follow faith because you always have, and you don't have, you don't ever think about your faith. So I think those questions are important to ask, because if we have no understanding of our faith, then, who are we to even practice it or tell others to practice it? That's, kind of in all aspects of science and economics and politics. How can you support an opinion if you can't back it up, if you don't know why things are? So yeah, that's definitely very typical of me. In school, in, theology class with Mr. Tuzuli that I was talking about earlier. uh Towards the later end of the class, when everyone's kind of fallen asleep and, some kids are just doing something else or whatever, I'll always be the one asking him questions, because, that's usually who I go to. I think I've emailed him already about some question that I had over summer. So, don't even leave him alone during during his break. But, usually I'll go to Balan teachers, or even my brother, because my brother, he's definitely a big influence on me in his faith. And, my brother, he's inspired me a lot, for sure. uh just little things that he does. He started driving recently, so he'll be like, oh, during church where we usually go, I'm gonna be hanging out with my girlfriend. And it's like, so I think, oh, he's gonna skip church, whatever. But no, he drives by himself to go to church in the morning while all of us are like asleep or whatever. And I'm like, wow, he's taking ownership over his faith. So my brother, I go to him for a lot of questions too, because, he knows probably more than I do, but he's good for that. And my teachers at Bullen too.
Great. Um, so I know I've heard a fair number of things that you do that I think are critical to anybody who is pursuing a life in faith. But I'd love to hear your version of that story, right? So if you were to give advice or guidance to your fellow teens in school, or even adults, anybody listening, what would you say would be the things that help you on this path to living an authentic Christian life?
Well, I kind of touched on it earlier. It's about little consistencies. If you don't like reading books, don't read a whole book in one day, but maybe read 5 to 10 pages one day, and then the next day you do that again and again and again, and in a month you finish the 300-page book. It's kind of the same with faith. You just have to, maybe you don't want to pray an entire rosary one day, but just do a short little Our Father. Do a little before you eat. Pray over your food. Pray for others if you're worried about them. Just little consistencies and little everyday things, and I think that's what starts you on that long, long staircase to being, you know, more in touch with your faith and more holy, like as a person.
Right.
So it's about that consistency.
I like that. Yeah, I definitely heard, earlier and then again now, right? Small incremental steps of learning and application. I also heard you along the way talk about prayer and the importance of prayer, even like a little prayer before you go in the gym,
Yeah.
or more standard prayers like rosary and things like that. So sounds like your prayer life is pretty important in your journey. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Especially in writing. That's, I think, how I pray the most.
Okay.
I'll write down, instead of like a journal where I guess people would write to themselves or whatever, I try to write more to God as if I'm in conversation with Him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I love that. Prayer, writing, journaling, reflecting, and that inquisitive mind of yours
Yeah.
are definitely, kind of moving you in the right direction. Um, so our sponsor Ryan Young, who founded these camps that I have participated in over the years, we have these themes, right, for each camp, and there are these questions that we build on through the course of the camp, and the first question is, where are we headed, or where are we going? What is the purpose of our life, right? And the answer is heaven, right? So we kind of get all the kids to know that. And so the question is, where are we headed? What is the purpose of life? Get everybody to answer heaven, and then we say, if not, you're wasting your time. And what I love about that is you were talking about the stairway, right?
Yeah.
That slow, incremental, just steady progress along the stairway to heaven,
Hmm.
to coin a musical phrase. Um, but what great advice that is
Hmm.
for just don't be a flash in the pan and don't forget about it altogether. Just incrementally move your way along the journey of learning, praying, engaging in your faith.
And I think
Uh,
it's important to think like, what is heaven? Heaven is perfect communion with God,
right.
you know, uh, putting your soul completely with God, perfect communion. And I think our goal as Catholics is to build the kingdom of heaven here on earth. So it's about getting closer to God here on earth every day that we can to prepare ourselves for heaven after death. And I think that's what we need to do, every day and build up to that.
And that is why I asked you to be on the show this week. Those kind of things. You're an incredibly impressive young man. We have Ignacio's father in the studio, Lorenzo D Toro, and just a big shout out, Lorenzo. I think you and your wife have obviously done a remarkable job. So thank you. There you are, way over there. Um, wow, thank you so much for sharing those insights. Um, just remember what Ignacio said, guys. Incremental progress, stay in it. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be all at once. Just slow incremental steps and work on your faith. Learn more, engage in the people around you. I also heard you say surrounding yourself with like-minded people and other people is very helpful. So
Hmm.
that's definitely come up before. That's all the time that we have this week. The really short episodes, and I wish they could go on for hours. I would
Yeah.
love to just continue to explore that with you. So I have an exciting announcement. I actually, so next week on Wednesday, we're just going to continue our weekly episodes from here on out. But next week, either late this week, early next week, I've got two very special episodes. One is on the Queen of Peace Monastery, located in North Carolina. I've got a highlight issue on, or highlight episode on that. And then I'm going to do a highlight episode on our mission trip. Our first guest was Chiqui Rodriguez with Blue Missions. We actually went on a Blue Missions trip, Ignacio and the rest of his family and about 20 other people. We had a fantastic time. So I'm going to do a whole highlight special episode on that. Which I think you guys will really get a joy out of watching. Again, I want to acknowledge our sponsor Ryan Young with Camp Veritas, our producer Rachel. Once again, fantastic job putting this together. I do want to include before we go today a prayer intention. Ignacio's cousin Jenny is dealing with some medical issues and going through some testing. Those are generally stressful times for the individual going through it as well as their family members. So I ask all of you guys, if you're listening, if you're watching, please pray for Jenny for a safe and good outcome to the testing and any treatments that she has. But especially pray for peace for her family and for her as they go through that, because that can make all the difference in the world, and God's will be done in that. shameless plug, we do need sponsorships for these episodes. So if you are called to action in that way, go to everydayapostle.com and you can see the information there. It does take a lot to produce these things. And I just want to say, as a goodbye, I want to encourage each and every one of you guys, continue on your journey. And as Ignacio said, small incremental steps, and just keep working toward it. Be in community, make progress slow, and stay connected. And with that, I wish you all a happy Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever day you're watching this, and may God be with you. Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to The Everyday Apostle. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, on your favorite podcast outlet, and at our website at everydayapostle.com. Until next time, stay blessed.